the stage.
Stefano. Hey,
Hi, Brad.
Great to see you. What a day. What a day. I want to ask you, first of all, did you ever think F1 would be this big or this popular?
Well, Brett, I have to say the truth. First of all, good afternoon. I know it's been a very intense morning with a lot of energy here around. I will try to give my bit. But
you have a little Tony Robbins in you?
Well, I have to say the truth. I mean, I was not expecting that we had such a growth in this incredible country. But that's why we are here. We just to try to grab every single occasion to make this business bigger than ever. And we know that in this lovely, incredible country, we have potential to keep growing.
You know, looking back at your early life, when did you first realize that racing would be your calling?
Well, I was born in a city where, you know, quite famous in Italy for racing track. And when I was at high school, I was always going to the track to help the organizer to be part of that. And, you know, it starts since the beginning. When you live the sport in the way that I lived since I was a kid, you will hope that one day you can. But, you know, if I look back, I would never thought that was possible for me. You know, I was doing school. At the end of university, I sent my CV to a lot of companies. One of them was Ferrari, as you can imagine. I was living very close to the place where this incredible brand is and is still there. And when they hired me in 1991, I started a journey that, you know, I was not thinking it was possible for an Italian, for me, coming from a normal family, able to do, you know, step by step what I did in my career. So, well, incredible from one side, but fascinating on the other side too.
Before becoming CEO of Formula One, you had really many lives along the way. Team manager, sporting director, team principal, Ferrari executive at Audi, CEO of Lamborghini. That's a lot. Which one of those chapters do you think shaped you most as a leader?
Well, I think that no matter is your career, I think that at least my approach to that is always listening, focusing on trying to improve every day, try to give you target on what can happen in your life. And of course, you cannot choose your boss, or you can if you can, but just to try to be surrounded by people gives you right motivation. I was lucky enough to be able to grow transversally in a great company, so I was able to capture different experiences. For me, the most important thing is try to see as a leader and try to replicate the fact that you want to do something unique for the people who are working for you. You need to be a role model. You need to make sure that you don't behave the way that you want that the others behaving with you. And try to be resilient on the fact that if you believe in something, you need to take any single opportunity that you may have. You may have failure. You may have defeat. In the world of sport is happening quite often. But never give up. Stay focused.
So motorsports is kind of unique in that it's a mix of passion and pressure. So what kind of values did you lift up to kind of keep you measured in the highs and lows? Because there's a lot of them in your sport.
Well, highs and lows is part of our life. And the more you grow, the more that you have to know that the pressure is part of your sphere, is emotional, is rational, is something that you are not built for that. Of course, you cannot believe that you can have certain responsibility. So you need to take that as a sort of positive boost to try, first of all, to control yourself and try to keep the right pressure on the people working for you in a way that there is the right tension, positive one, to motivate them to improve the way that they work with you, but always never crack under pressure. Otherwise, you're going to be a disaster. And the more you are on the high side, the more the air is less. So you need to make sure you breathe every single moment in the right way.
Yeah. So as you look at your journey, what was the moment that made you feel, this is what I need to be doing, this is what I'm meant to do?
You know what? I think life is full of moments. Every single moment has to put in the perspective of what's your life and what you're living. And I think that, for example, today, the opportunity that Mayor Francis gave it to me and to us is unique. And I need to breathe because, you know, thinking that I represent an incredible sport and a human being representing, you know, people behind me that has a trust in me, a great world behind that. Is another moment where, you know, I go back home. Tonight I have to go to Brazil for the race, thinking, you know, mission accomplished today, looking forward to the next one tomorrow.
You've led some of the most competitive people in the world. I mean, a lot of very competitive people. So what have they taught you about how they handle pressure, how they handle failure, or even maybe what they taught you about ego?
Well, ego is an approach in our world that is quite common. But that's part of the game. You know, the more you are in the high peak of sport, the more egos has to be managed. And my job is to be like a sort of director behind the scene, try to manage everything. The ego is good if it's performing the right way. We need to have, you know, jewel. We need to have people that are the face of a sport. We need to create, or we need to have certain drama that is getting the right attention. But what you learn in a high-performance world is that the difference is here. It's the way that you approach the things. It's not on the basic things that when you are there, you need to give them for granted. It's really how to perform, how you're able, first of all, to give to yourself targets every day. I mean, I'm very basic on that. I try to be, as a reference, you know, how many decisions I take every day. How many decisions I've taken today. Because I'm in a position where I cannot sleep. I cannot sit in a sort of comfort zone. But that's, if you take it the right way, is the way to look and to motivate the people under you to be even more protagonists. And today, I use that word because we need people that feel to be protagonists on what they're doing. At all level, at all level. We are such an incredible business now that everyone counts, everyone making the difference. So that's what I'm trying to make sure that everyone understands this. This is a matter of being unique in everything that you're doing.
I always loved looking at the cars, but I was never really into the races until my two sons got into the Netflix show, Drive to Survive. And then we went to the F1 movie and with Brad Pitt. Fell in love with it. They were already in it. Formula One, you've seen massive growth over the past few years. You've turned this into like a global phenomenon, cultural. From that Netflix to Las Vegas to engineering and emotion. And I think we have a video to watch here.
For decades, Formula One was a world of
So as the sands of time run down to the end of this magnificent...
Yeah, I think that is crucial. I mean, today, to be relevant and current for what you're proposing is crucial. We are now in a moment where, being a global sport, worldwide sport, we have the privilege from one side to be cutting all the different community, from the, I would say with all respect, the pure fans to the high businessman that wants to be in the place to be, that is Formula One today. And the only way to be relevant is to connect and speak the language of different communities. That's why, you know, we did all these projects that at the beginning have been perceived to be non-conventional. But that's the only way to get into new community, new sort of fans. That's why we did deals with Lego, with Disney, with the fact that we want to connect with the younger generation. We need to talk with their language. We need to talk with their way of talking and communicating. Otherwise, we'll be out. We were a world of sport where very strong on linear TV. And if you didn't move from there to the fact that every country has a different way to connecting on talking about us, wouldn't be so successful. So listening, watching, being humble and trying to be progressive in all the way that you can do it at all level. Of course, we keep the sport at the center. We are racing sport. Technology is very, very relevant. But if we are not able to convey the fact that today we are not competing against the other biggest sport, we are competing against other form of entertainment. That's a fact. That's why we need to be relevant once again in this, in all the community that we are trying to connect.
So you've expanded to new markets, the US, the Middle East, Asia. How do you determine what makes the next great market? And how do you balance protecting the history, tradition of F1 at some of the long-time places?
Well, for sure, Brad, tradition or historical places has a great value, but only if there is a trajectory versus the future. If we go in a place that is only looking back at the history, I'm sorry, it's game over. You know, they are more lucky than the others because they have foundations that are stronger. But our duty today, where we have an incredible venues all around the world, we race in 24 places, as I said, around the world. We need to try to make sure that we find the right mix between the new places, street circuits, or other communities that can bring value to our sport. For example, here in Miami, it's a couple of years we are building phenomenal events, and I have to thank the promoter here, you know, and they are magic because they understand the philosophy of our sport and applying that to the philosophy of Miami, Florida, US. That's the key of our success.
How many of you went to the F1 here in Miami? Yeah. You have a lot of fans here. So.
We have space to improve, you see.
I think so.
I have to take that. For the ones that take hands off, I hope next year you're going to have the chance to come with us.
So we're talking about, you know, expanding and then also protecting the soul. You know, you personally guard F1's kind of spirit as it becomes more global and commercial. But can it go too global, too commercial? Or do you think about that?
Well, you know, it's not too global, too commercial. It's the fact that if we want to survive in the ecosystem, we need to understand what is all around the world. And therefore, keeping the center racing, that is fundamental for us, we need to build around the dress that is good in order to be attractive. And today, if you are not having a proposition done from the sporting perspective, from the commercial perspective, from the marketing perspective, from the technological perspective, we're going to be not successful. And the world is running so fast that if you're not able to stay on top of the wave, we're going to fade down. That's why it's so crucial that we are a small organization in a way. We need to be listening to our promoters around the world, to our broadcasters around the world, to our fans around the world. So that's why we are shifting our way of living the sport from a B2B perspective to a B2C. We want to get in touch with our customer, with our fans. And that's the only way for us to keep being relevant for the future.
So next season, there's some new hybrid engines running on advanced sustainable fuel. Will fans be able to notice a difference, these changes?
Well, I think that the puristic fans, the super avid fans, they understand exactly what we're talking about. For us, it's relevant to be talking of something in terms of sustainability where it's relevant for the world. We didn't believe in the full electrification since the beginning, with all respect. We said that the hybrid represents the future of mobility with sustainable fuel. And if you think that today we are talking about a fleet of normal cars, more than 1.8 billion, just cars, you need to add commercial vehicle, trucks and so on, you know that it's impossible to fully electrify the world. So the only way to go and to keep the mobility at the right level of technologies to go to hybridization. We were the first in 2014 to be with the hybrid engine. We didn't sell that story very well, but now we want to make sure that everyone understands that sustainability is part of our project. That's why, you know, we take the commitment to be neutral, carbon neutral within 2030. That's why, together with the promoter, together with the logistics, because we are traveling around the world, we have seriously committed to this goal that is relevant for our society. And that's why, if I may, I do believe that our goal is to try to be as relevant as possible. And the only way to be relevant, for example, in this fantastic country, is to try to see if every morning, when you wake up, on top of your news, about the news on NBA, NFL, soccer, because now Gianni will be a big push on football in this country, we'll have news, we'll talk about Formula One. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do because we are resilient. We're going to don't give up to the end.
So obviously CEOs like yourself, Ken Griffin, others, have lessons learned. What works, what doesn't. What advice would you give other sports leagues looking to expand globally?
Well, I think that if you want to expand globally, you need to understand the culture of the different countries. We cannot give it for granted that something that is successful in one place is the same on the other side. So what we need to do is to make sure that we do the right synthesis to have one product that is successful all around the world. That is not easy, but it's the beauty of our job.
That's pretty good. You know, Formula One pushes the boundaries of technology. It also pushes the boundaries of human courage. If you watch these guys going across the tracks all over the world. How do you see the spirit inspiring kind of broader change when it comes to something like sustainability, when it comes to something like, plugging into your community, that sort of thing?
Well, I think the F1 is fascinating in my perspective, in my opinion, because it is something that is involving the human being at all levels, at the maximum level of competition. And we are performing, if you think about what our drivers, they are fighting for tenths of a second. We're talking a difference between one or the other of a blink of an eye. So how you can perform as much as you can to make sure that you're faster than your colleague. And this is involving not only your skill, but also the skill of the engineering that is around you. We are talking about the precision that is in a millisecond difference, so it's fascinating. And the technology, we are talking a lot about AI, has to be a service to that. We will never see Formula One where the human being is not the differentiating factor. That's the beauty of our sport. It's non-negotiable in a world where technology is part of our DNA for sure.
But AI is changing things, right? From the engineering, from how you operate.
Yeah, in our TV production, AI is helping us to give information quicker. We want to give the radio messages in real time. We want to try to avoid the delays that are not good for the narrative of what we are doing. Therefore, it is there, but it's helping the people to understand better, helping the technology, as I said, to make sure that at the end of the day, the difference is in the hands and the head of our drivers.
Looking at the F1 movie with Brad Pitt, it was a great movie, and it was exciting. And there was this question about what percentage of Formula One victors is the driver, and what percentage is the team and that car and making that car what it is?
Well, for sure, if you have a very bad team or a bad car, even if you are the best in the world, you cannot win unless you are very lucky. Therefore, everything has to be pushed to the limit. At the end of the day, in certain conditions, the driver is the one who is able to make the difference, for sure. But that's why we call our team sport, because without having a good team of mechanics, of engineers, of people that are working to make sure that you have a better car than the other, the best team in the world cannot win. It's a team spirit work. It's, in any case, something that is relevant to the fact that, the drivers are only 20 in the world. They are, in a way, doing an incredible job where the pressure is very high, when they have to make, in a blink of an eye, decision that a normal human being will not be able to take. And what is fascinating, and what I lived in these 30 years of my experience in Formula One, they are able to slow down every single frame at the highest speed ever, in order to, every single frame that is passing through their mind, maximize the performance. This is something incredible, if you think.
So decades from now, as you deal with future fans, let's say, looking back at this era, what do you want them to feel about the journey of Formula One? What do you want your legacy in shaping this to be?
Well, I don't want to say it's ours. It's a part of all the stakeholders, the teams, our team, because it's such an incredible privilege to be leading the sport. But it's a teamwork. I think that for me, the relevant things to say is that we are shaping the sport that is adapting on the evolution of the world, keeping, the DNA of racing at the center, but not sleeping in the old good days, but always looking every day ahead.
What are you most looking forward to, most excited about this new season?
Well, first of all, we have still 4 races to go with a lot of action. The first 3 drivers are very, very close, so there will be a lot of incredible fight on the track. In Brazil, next Sunday, the weather shouldn't be so good, so it will be another element of uncertainty. And so, first of all, we're going to have another end of the season that will be hopefully fantastic from the sporting perspective. And next year, with the new regulation, there will be a reset. We have new teams coming in. We have US bringing up, Cadillac, Ford coming in, Audi, Honda. So I go back to what I said before. The more we are able to bring elements of being progressive in our proposition, the more we're going to be successful in the future.
Stefano, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brett. Thanks to you all. Grazie. Un saluto a tutti. Ciao.